I now invite Mr. Suresh Lulla to deliver his opening address. Mr. Lulla is founder and managing director of Qimpro Consultants as well as Best Prax Club. Over to you, Mr. Lulla.
Good morning, delegates. It's a very emotional moment to be here for the 25th Qimpro Convention. I recall the first Qimpro Convention when we hurriedly put it together and hosted it at the Pride Hotel in Pune. That was the first. We had about 50 delegates, and there were unusual rain, and the Shamiana that we had collapsed. So we started with a deficiency in our convention. But we learned from that. We learned from it to have a roof and to do things right. So here we are at our 25th, and I am here on behalf of the Qimpro team. We always forget to thank them, but I must say we have a very lean team of Hanu, Ramakant, Ashok. Then we have our Tejas, we have Jackson, we have Moise, we have Khushbu, we have Lionel, and we have Jigisha. And that's all. We managed this event, a 9-month process. What I'm going to take you through is the evolution of quality and innovation. The theme of our convention is always quality and innovation. Let's take a back seat and see how it evolved. Quality is not new. Would you agree? Excellence is not new. Benchmarking is not new. Innovation is not new. All of these were embodied in the craftsman. The craftsman understood customer needs, translated them into features, benchmarked them, set goals for the craft, created a process that was best in class and economical, and delivered excellence. Think of the craftsmen who built the Taj Mahal, Madurai temples, the pyramids. They embody what we call world-class quality. The reputations of their families depended on doing excellent work. The survival of their families depended on doing it right, making a little money. To me, the craftsman is the icon for quality. So what happened to the craftsman-like skills? Came industrialization. And in industrialization, the customer who received the output of work that flows horizontally got divided into silos. Got divided into silos. These silos got names. And if I asked you for a visiting card, you'll tell me which silo you belong to, whether it is purchasing, operations, marketing, etc. People entered at the bottom of the silo and grew up in the silo. What was the objective of industrialization? Quantity. What happened to quality? It went down. And with that was born the first cost of poor quality, the inspector. Think about it. Would you like an inspector if you did everything right? You don't need inspectors. You need self-inspection. Came World War I. And in World War I, people who worked in factories were called to the battlefront. With the kind of weaponry, most of them never returned. So they were left with elders to run the factories, and who had to run the factories with housewives and children who were not very educated at that time. These housewives and children did the doing. They took instructions from the elders. And in common parlance, HR parlance, the elders did what we call the staff function, and the housewives and the children did what we call as line function. That model worked so long as education levels were different. Education levels of staff and line have changed. They're the same. Post-World War II, Japan, a shattered economy, an island economy with no natural resources, no buying power, but with a great desire to survive and succeed. It was the Emperor of Japan who invited industry leaders to explore with them how do we make our factories work. And at some stage, they invited Professor Edwards Deming to show them how to work without investment. And they called Dr. Duran to complement Professor Edwards Deming. What did Deming and Duran teach the Japanese? Remove functional barriers from your processes. You have problems that are anchored in the boundaries of your functions. And so we need to improve that situation through cross-functional teams. They also taught them to flatten the organization. Processes ran like spaghetti, accommodating the status of people. Streamline the process, innovate the process, make things faster. The impact of this was felt when the Japanese economic aggression in 1970-80 happened in the field of entertainment electronics and the auto industry. Unknown brand names took on the world heavyweights, Grundig, Bush, Philips, Zenith. What were the brand names in entertainment electronics? Sony, Panasonic. They could copy a design and do it perfectly. They could do things faster, better, cheaper. In the auto industry, customers because of the OPEC crisis, wanted more fuel-efficient cars. That opened the doors for Japanese Datsun 510 subcompact four-cylinder cars to penetrate the American market. Toyota Corolla was a two-door, four-cylinder subcompact, would you believe it? They captured a good part of the US auto industry. By 1982, they had devastated the backbone of the US economy. So the Secretary of Commerce, Malcolm Baldrige, invited industry leaders such as Bob Galvin and a few others, along with Deming and Duran, who had built this Frankenstein of Japan. What was their objective? Contain Japanese economic aggression. They had to look at things differently now. The Japanese were competing not just on cost, but in terms of quality. So, by 1987, we had criteria where you had leadership. Leadership had to take a role in quality management. Try building a quality culture without the leadership embracing quality. Strategic planning. Integrate quality into the strategic plan. Traditional strategic planning involved finance, marketing, and manufacturing. Integrate quality into the strategic plan. Customer focus. Who defines quality? Quality is defined not by industry standards, that's only a threshold. It's defined by the customer in the marketplace. And the customer has the right to change their mind as they get better and better competitive offerings. The customer is the final inspector, and the customer pays your salary. Remember that. You will not exist without a customer. Measurement, analysis, knowledge management. One of the most underemployed assets of an organization is the knowledge resident in the people. It migrates with the person as they get promoted, transferred, or leave the organization. Who does this knowledge belong to? It belongs to the organization. How do you manage knowledge? This is the nerve center of excellence. Workforce focus. All assets in an organization depreciate. Only the human asset appreciates. Are your practices geared for an appreciating asset? Operations focus. You need to look at processes and manage them through quality planning, quality control, quality improvement. And with that, you get results that are not simply financial results, but also involve customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, community satisfaction, operational performance, market share, and leadership governance. Now let's take a look at the journey, the scoring guidelines. You can get a 100 to 200 score if you had a well-implemented ISO 9000. But to move to the next level where you manage for quality, where you're doing quality planning, quality control, quality improvement. You manage for quality, you can migrate to the next level, 200 to 400, on a single process or on your value creation processes. To have a quality of management, then you need to see all processes performing, and with a sound foundation of customer focus, leadership, and strategic planning. There's a good chance you can win an award in this band when you have quality of management. The problem starts when you win. You are now visible to everybody for your best practices. Your best practices that won you an award can get commoditized before you know it. And you will be one of the flock soon after winning the award. So don't get complacent winning awards. You've got to work on your best practices to be ahead of the flock. So benchmarking for best practices. And when you've done that, you now reach a stage where you can do innovation. The message I want to give you is that improvement, quality improvement, is in that band of 200 to 400 largely, and innovation is in the band 800 plus. There are several things that have to be fulfilled before you claim you're doing innovation. What did all this mean? We had to get back to the craftsman-like skills. We had to get back to these skills, but on a scale. Excellence is therefore not a very complicated subject. When confused, think of the craftsman. As excellence took roots, we saw factories in the US doing things better, cheaper, faster. But that was not enough. What customers wanted was better, cheaper, faster, and different. So how to be different? You are different when you innovate. How do you innovate? You need to ideate. You ideate with your right brain. You do improvements with your left brain. They're very logical, incremental improvements. But to have disruptive change, you need to engage the right brain, and that is to ideate. How do you ideate? When you challenge the best. Where do you get this data? Through cross cross-industry benchmarking. How do we normally indulge? We indulge in benchmarking our own industry. With that, you're doomed to being a follower. You will not be a leader. Cross-industry benchmarking expands your mind to think with the right brain. I'll give you one example. Madurai. How many of you have been to Madurai? Have you heard of Aravind Eye Hospital? What is it famous for? Cataract surgery. High volume, low cost, perfect. How did they accomplish that? Today they are a world benchmark for cataract surgery for volume, price, and perfection. How did they accomplish this? They did cross-industry benchmarking. They benchmarked with Pizza Hut to see how you can get a perfect output on time with ordinary people doing extraordinary work. Where do you get this information on cross-industry? You've got to go into knowledge banks. You've got to mine. You've got to look. Today, there's so much information available that the hard part is selecting the right one to benchmark. And you've got to do benchmarking surveys to figure out how people do things differently. This applies to leadership, strategic planning, anything. We've benchmarked, we've challenged the best, and again we get commoditized. Now what do we do? Our branding is based on the great stuff we do. We need to proactively challenge the best practices we have and move them to the next level. You once again need to ideate. And you need to work with creativity labs. Creativity labs that engage the right brain. And you can do this internally, and you can do this with an external team. Get the ideas. We recently did one with RBS, who got their ideas for customer service by, believe it or not, benchmarking Deepika Padukone. They benchmarked with the film Chennai Express, and they had brilliant ideas that helped them resolve their problems. So the missing link is benchmarking for best practices between quality and innovation. It's a choice with no options. So I'd urge you all that when we come next year, we're going to hear a lot more about how you benchmarked and how you innovated. Thank you very much, and do have a very successful 2 days to all the teams. All the best, and we'll see you at the end of today and again tomorrow.